Hello everyone, how are you? My name is Maria Garavito and this is my partner,
Elore Lewis.
Today we're going to inform you a little bit about some recent laws that have occurred in the last year in regards to human trafficking and how as a professional counselor, as a professional, like a professional helper,
Practitioners or helpers
who provide services to children, how this affects us in the long run. So first off, I want to talk about what is human trafficking. Human trafficking usually involves the use of force, coercion, or fraud, and it's used to exploit a person for profit. So trafficking victims are subjected to sexual exploitation, to forced labor, or to both. In short, human trafficking is the modern day slavery, and it's also a serious federal crime and has penalties up to imprisonment of life.
And today, our focus really will be on the sexual exploitation aspect of human trafficking of children under the age of 18, because that's specifically what these two new bills or laws that were passed in the 2012 Florida legislation addresses. So we're going to be talking about HB 99 and HB 1355. HB 99 is referred to as the Florida Safe Harbor Act, and HB 1355 is the Protection of the Vulnerable Persons Act, as it gives governing to the Department of Children and Families on how to handle anything with children and sexual exploitation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so was helping professionals, we need to know a little bit more of the signs and who is vulnerable. So I know we talked about it's dependents, children under the ages of 18, and some of the signs or some of the vulnerabilities that these children might have are children that have ran away from home, children that are throwaway kids, as well children with substance abuse, any other type of abuse. And some of the signs to look out for that, to see whether a child is a victim of human trafficking would be to see if they have maybe a boyfriend that's a lot older, so maybe a 10-year-old with a 20-something-year-old boyfriend. Also, seeing if they have, picking up on their terminology. If their terminology in terms of commercial sex is not appropriate for their age, then that's one of the signs to consider. And suddenly, see if they suddenly wear expensive clothes or materials. So you might see a 10-year-old walking around with a big Louis Vuitton bag or things like that, that their daddy purchased for them. And also, if you're in the school systems, also notice if there's long periods of absences from these children. So 1 week, 2 weeks, recurrent throughout the year. And so what do you do in these cases when you see these signs?
Well, this is where the laws comes in. For we practitioners who have been practicing for a while, we know of the mandated law that requires us to report any abuse, whether it be physical neglect of children, to the Department of Children and Families. Well, the Florida Safe Harbor Act extend on that, and now it's a requirement. As of January 1st, 2013, it will be a requirement for all persons who work with children under the age of 18. If you suspect or believe that a child is a victim of human trafficking, specifically on sexual exploitation, you are now mandated to report that to the Department of Children and Families under this new law. This law is intended to provide a more coordinated effort between law enforcement and any persons who provide services to children. And once you believe or suspect that this child is a victim of sexual exploitation, you have to report it. So the key thing is to remember that now it's mandated as of January 1st, 2013, that we have to call the the Florida Abuse Hotline, which we will be giving you that number towards the end. So it's, again, very important that we know that this is now a law mandating us to report to make sure these children are safe.
Mm-hmm. So some of the resources, if you want more information in regards...
One more thing is in the HB 1355, which is the Protection of the Vulnerable Persons. And this law specifically helps the Department of Children and Families and law enforcement to maneuver the Florida Safe Harbor Act. So this bill addressed child abuse, neglect, and abandonment by requiring Department of Children and Families and law enforcement officers know how to be responsible for causes of children who are suspected to be victim of child exploitation.
So let me get this straight. The Department of Children and Families, who usually get calls from children that are abused, neglected, or abandoned, now this is something new that they have.
This is also an addition to that is mandated for them to do it. And this law also provide the step-by-step now of what Department of Children and Families is required to do. This law also give law enforcement a more clear cut in regards to what their requirements are in the past. For example, Maria, a law enforcement officer gets a child, a 14-year-old, and they suspect that this child is a victim of sexual exploitation. In the past laws, the law enforcement was required to call the child's parent and turn that child over to the parent. Now, this law require now for the law enforcement to turn the child over to the Department of Children and Families, which helps to negotiate and also to assess and make sure that this child is ready for unification with the parent, because as you stated before, some of the children who are victim or who are more vulnerable for this, are targeted, are the ones who run away from home or throwaways, and we want to make sure that they're returning back to a safe environment before we merge them, and also providing the long care term that these children will need.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So if you guys want to know more about these laws, want to look up these laws specifically, remember it's HB 99. It's also HB 1355. And all this information is provided to you. You can go to www.National Human Trafficking Resource Center, and they'll have endless amount of resources in terms of how to pick up on signs, how to pick up on who are the victims, more details about the law, assessments you can do, a whole mess of resources that are available to helping professionals.
Exactly, and just one more thing to remember, the same number that used to be for child abuse and neglect that we report, it's the same one, the 1-800-96-ABUSE. ABUSE, 1-800-96-ABUSE. That's a good way to remember. That's the one that any adult who suspect a child to be a victim of child exploitation, sexual exploitation, to report. Remember, as with physical abuse or sexual abuse or with neglecting abandonment, we don't have to know. Remember, the adult or the practitioner does not have to know the details. They just suspect. That's all your job is, to suspect. Your job is to report it, and then the law enforcement and the Department of Children and Families take over from there.
Okay, sounds good to me. Okay. Anything else? I think. Well, thank you for your time. We hope this information is useful for you. Feel free to share it. Click on the like, share it on Facebook, on Twitter, email, whatever you like, and we'll have more information in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.